Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today it is time for round 7 of Becca'S Bookopoly. So you know the drill by now. Becca'S Bookopoly is how I pick my monthly TBR. Each square on this board corresponds to a prompt. I roll the dice, I land on a square, and I pick a book that corresponds to that prompt. If this is your first time ever encountering Bookopoly, I will put a link up here to my first ever Bookopoly video, where you will find a tour of every square on the board, as well as all of the rules of this game. But for you guys who have been here for a while, let's get started. So as usual, we will be starting with a recap of last month's Bookopoly rolls to see whether I completed those books or not. So here are last month's books. We have Living Dead in Dallas by Charlene Harris, to read a paranormal or a magical realism. There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, which was to read a mystery or a thriller. Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, which was to read a book in a dystopian world. Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers, which was to read a science fiction. And The Furies by Katie Lowe, which was to read my most recent purchase. And I read all of these in June. I've had a very good reading month, as you will find out when my June wrap up comes along. So going into July, we have a few things going on. The main thing is the Book Junkie Trials, which is a 1-month-long readathon that I am co-hosting. I have already posted my TBR for that one, as you do have to set it in advance and there's no going back. I have to read those books in that TBR. As well as that, we do have the Reading Rush at the end of the month, which was formerly Booktubeathon. I will be participating in that and I will be daily vlogging like I did last year. We are coming up to the 1-year point of me making reading vlogs, which is super exciting, and like last year, I will daily vlog the entire Reading Rush. As well as that, this month I will be meeting one of my Booktube besties for the first time and I am so excited to be spending some time with her, so you can also look out for that in my weekly reading vlogs. So aside from all of that crazy stuff, we do have Bookopoly. Like I said, I'm participating in the Book Junkie Trials this month, and so I will be trying to fit every book that I pick today into the remaining challenges for that readathon. I've only declared my mage path because you only have to declare your team path, but I did say that I would be using Bookopoly to fill in the gaps. So as we're going through, I will tell you which additional challenge these books will fit in for. So now that we've got all that over and done with, let's get into our first roll. So last time we landed on most recent purchase. First roll. 6. Read a library book. So roll number 1 was to read a library book, and I'm glad this came up because I didn't manage to read any library books in June. So this month I will be reading The Emperor's Soul and Legion by Brandon Sanderson. I have had this book out from the library since I think March and I just still have not gotten around to it. So as soon as this came up, even though this wouldn't be my first choice of library books, like it's not the one that I'm most excited to read, I knew I had to pick this one because I have to read it. So this is a bind up of 2 novellas, one being Legion and one being The Emperor's Soul. The Emperor's Soul is set in the Elantris universe, and that is the only Brandon Sanderson book that I have read so far. So the reason that I picked this up and wanted to read it is because I do want to wrap up everything to do with Elantris that's out so far before I move on to Mistborn. And then Legion, I think, is a science fiction detective novella. I do believe that it is a full series of novellas now, but this is just the first part in that series. So ironically, I will be reading The Emperor's Soul to wrap up a universe, but I will also be starting a new series by reading Legion. And for the Book Junkie Trials, this will fulfill the prompt for Queendom Stone, which is to read a book that features royalty, and I'm assuming as the Elantris novella is called The Emperor's Soul, it will fulfill that prompt. Roll number 2. Double 6. Read a mystery or a thriller. So roll number 2 is a double. You guys said to me last month that I got off light with no doubles and that July would come back to bite me in the ass, and you were right. We have a double already. So we landed on mystery thriller, and for that I will be reading Confessions by Kine Minato. This is in my official mage TBR for the Book Junkie Trials, so if you want to see what prompt I'm using it for, then you can go check out that video. But literally I know nothing about this apart from that it is an adult thriller. It's translated from Japanese, I believe, and every review I've heard about it says that this is seriously fucked up, and that is all I know about this. The reason that I'm reading this is that it is a traveling book. Myself and a few bookish friends have started sending books around and annotating them and then sending them on. So I absolutely have to get this read in this month so that I can pass it on to the next person, and I'm really excited about it because I love me a fucked up thriller. Third roll. Double 1. Another mystery or thriller. Okay, so another double. I'm having the worst time already. And once again, we have a mystery thriller, and this time I'm going to be reading one that I'm not too excited about, but that is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I have to say, once again, I don't know a lot about this one. I have seen the movie, but I literally remember nothing apart from that Neil Patrick Harris is in it. That is literally all I remember. I didn't really like that movie, but this is a huge critically acclaimed thriller. Everybody absolutely loves it. I think a guy's wife goes missing. That is all that I know about this. This was featured in my video that was called These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months, which is a list of books that I have owned for absolutely forever and have not read, and I've kind of lost interest in them. So I set myself a time limit of 12 months, and if I have not read them in that time, then I have to unhaul them. As of yet, I don't think I've read any. This will be the first one off that list. So I'm giving myself permission to DNF this one, I guess, if I don't like it. But I'm glad that I'm finally making progress on that video so that eventually I will be able to bring you a wrap up and let you know what's going on with those books. And for the Book Junkie Trials, this will fulfill the prompt for the Great Library, which is to read a book that has been on your TBR forever. Roll number 4. 9. Reading adult fantasy. Okay, so adult fantasy, one of my favourite squares on this board. For this, I will be reading A Storm of Swords Part 2, Blood and Gold by George R.R. Martin. I am hosting a read-along of the entire Song of Ice and Fire series. This is the book for May and June. I have read the first half as the UK editions are split into 2, but I haven't read the second half yet. If you're waiting for the live show for this, I need to put an announcement out on the Twitter, but it will be on the 21st of July. It's quite late in the month as one of our hosts is on holiday, so we pushed it back a little bit because I know a lot of people are struggling with the length of this one, and so that she will be able to join us. So this is the third book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, which is the series of books that Game of Thrones is based on, as I'm sure you know. The first part of this was my favourite installment in the series so far, and so I am definitely very excited to continue because this has been the most high action and high stakes book so far. And this one was already included in my Mage Path for the Book Junkie Trials. Number 5. 8. Read a book set in the UK or the US. So to read a book set in a UK or US setting, this means a setting that I'm familiar with, so Western culture, and also preferably no fantastical elements. So for that, I will be reading What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. This is another book that was included in a recent video of mine, and this one was my summer TBR. I said that I wanted to get to this summer, as I do tend to read a lot of contemporary and faster paced books in the summer months. I don't expect great things from this because I don't really like Becky Albertalli all that much, although I do like Adam Silvera, and a lot of the people I know who normally really like both of these authors' books have said that it's kind of mediocre. Saying that though, quite a few people have commented on my summer TBR video and said that they did enjoy it, so I'm just going into this with no expectations really. So what I know about the plot of this is that it follows 2 boys. One of them is dropping off a box of his ex's things at a post office where he meets another boy. Those 2 get talking, they hit it off, they set a date, but I think a string of catastrophes happens that stops them from going on this day and any further dates. And while they feel like they have chemistry and they have a connection and they want to see if they can take this flirtation further, it seems like the universe is trying to get in their way. So the premise of this does sound really interesting, but the reviews haven't been great, and I'm just gonna go into this and see where it takes me. And for the Book Junkie Trials, this will fulfill the prompt for Dwarf Mount, which is to read a book with at least a hint of romance. Roll number 6. 9. Read another library book. So this one landed on library book again. I'm glad that this one came up for the same reasons as before. I do have quite a stack of library books to get through at the moment. But for this one, I'm going to be reading the group book for the Book Junkie Trials, which is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I do not have this yet. I have reserved it at the library. I didn't want to reserve it too early in case it had to go back because somebody else had a hold on it, and then I wouldn't have it for the time in the readathon that I actually had to read it. So this is on hold, and I'm sure it will come in at some point during the month. I'm essentially reading this because it is the group book. I've read one book from Neil Gaiman before and it was okay. It was Norse mythology, but that is obviously a retelling of myths. So I have yet to venture into Neil Gaiman's original work. I have seen the movie for Stardust and I've seen it more than once, but it's quite a long time ago, so I don't really remember the plot of this. But I do know it has something to do with a shooting star, and I think there is a girl inside the shooting star, and there is also a boy who is venturing to the shooting star because he thinks it'll bring him fortune or luck or something like that. And I do believe there's also like an evil witch figure in this. I am definitely excited to read it because Neil Gaiman is a big name in fantasy, so I really should sample some more of his work. And final roll, or not final roll, Read a paranormal or a magical realism. So rule number 7 is another double. I may as well just end my channel and crawl into a hole right now, right? So here we have a paranormal or a magical realism. Both of these genres share this space because I don't read too much of either, so I can go whichever way I fancy in the particular month. So I'm going to go paranormal this month, and I'm going to be continuing my read of the Sookie Stackhouse series with Club Dead by Charlaine Harris. Now I think this is book 3, but I'm never quite sure if they're in order on my shelves, so if this isn't book 3, I will be reading book 3. So the Sookie Stackhouse series is the book series that True Blood is based on, and it follows a girl called Sookie who is a waitress in a bar. She has the ability to read people's minds. In this world, vampires are out of the coffin, I believe is the phrase. So people know that vampires exist. They think that they are people who have this very rare illness that slows down their metabolism and everything like that. One day a vampire walks into the bar where Sookie works, and she realizes that she can't read his mind, which makes him very appealing to her. So this is a paranormal romance. There's a little bit of smut in here. There wasn't as much smut in the second book as the first book, and I was kind of sad about it, to be honest. And this is also a mystery series. In the first 2 books there have been murders that Sookie, Bill and Eric have to solve, so I'm assuming it will continue in that vein. I didn't like the first book, but I enjoyed the second book more. I've learned not to take these books too seriously. There are a lot of conveniences, a lot of things that make me cringe a little bit, but they are very fast-paced and fun. I think I read the second book in 2 or 3 days during Ghibliathon in June, so I have been very interested in carrying on, as I'm loving fast-paced books as opposed to slow-moving adult fantasy at the minute. But I'm just hoping there's a little bit more smut in this one. And for the Book Junkie Trials, I will be reading this for the Forgotten Forest to read the next book in a series. Okay, hopefully actual final roll. Oh my god. Read a 5-star prediction. Ah, we have another double. Because of course we do. Okay, so roll number 9 is a 5-star prediction. It has been a while since this one came up. So in the past, I have made 2 5-star prediction videos that have 5 books in each that I think that I will give 5 stars. Now I have only pulled 1 of these so far, so we have 9 in here to choose from. There is one in particular that I really want to pull this month, and there are 2 that I 100% do not want to pull this month because they are enormous. So here we are, let's mix them up a bit and we'll see what 5-star prediction we're going to be reading. I really can't read this. What does this say? Okay, so it is Catwoman Soul Stealer. So this was not the one that I wanted to come out, but it was definitely one of the best ones that could have come out of that jar. And this is Catwoman Soul Stealer by Sarah J Maas, the only Sarah J Maas book that I have not read. So this is I think it's the 3rd book in the DC Icons series, which is a series of books that was written by different young adult authors that tells the origin story of different DC characters. Sarah J Maas wrote about Catwoman. This is the one in the series that I'm most excited to read because Sarah J Maas is one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite authors. You can call me trash all you want, I will agree with you. And I was also excited about this because I don't really like superheroes, but Catwoman is an anti-hero and I'm definitely into grey morality and all that jazz. So I anticipated that I would really love this, mainly because it's Sarah J Maas. Out of the 12 books that she's published, I've only given 1 of them less than 5 stars, so I obviously expect great things from this one. And for the Book Junkie Trials, I will be using this book for Apothecary Towers, which is to pick a book at random, and as you saw, I just did that. Okay guys, this has to be my actual final roll. Come on, we can do this. 3. Read a young adult fantasy. And then lastly, the final roll. Finally, the final roll, because it took us a long time to get here. Is this my biggest Bookopoly so far? I think it might be. So we landed on young adult fantasy, and I will be reading Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. Now before I talk about the book, I want to talk about the fact that I've just found a foil leaf in here, and if I remember correctly, that leaf came from when I went to see Imagine Dragons in 2014 or 15, which is about the time that I first read this. Oh, and it has a ticket for Neck Deep in it. So that was in February 2016. Why have I been shoving random bits of litter in in my Leigh Bardugo book. So Ruin and Rising is the third and final book in the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, and it follows Alina, who is a girl who has been drafted into the army. She lives in a Russian-inspired country called Ravka that is war-torn, and everybody's kind of drafted into the army. She is a map maker, but one day when she is crossing the Fold, which is this shadowy area of the country that's full of monsters, she realizes that she has powers that she didn't know that she had, and because of that she is whisked away to the Grisha Academy, where she is trained on how to use these and harness her abilities and possibly save the country. So I'm rereading this series. I have read the Grisha trilogy before, but only the Grisha trilogy. I haven't read anything else from the Grishaverse. And I'm also buddy reading this series with Jade from JDRA Reads, as she owns all the books but has not read any of them yet. So I'm glad that I did roll Young Adult Fantasy, because this means that this can be my official Bookopoly TBR instead of being an add-on as it had to be last month. I have been enjoying this more than I expected to upon reread, and I definitely love Leigh Bardugo's writing. I love Nikolai. You know I love Nikolai, because who doesn't? And I'm excited to wrap up this series so that we can move on to Six of Crows next month, which is really damn exciting. And for the Book Junkie Trials, this will fulfill the prompt for the Elven Guard, which is to read a book that features war, military or political themes. So that is everything for my Bookopoly TBR. I do just have one more book to add to my July TBR, and I really hope I can get to it because I've been planning this for so long. But I want to read Nevernight by J. Kristoff. This was my favourite book of 2017, and J. Kristoff is one of my favourite authors ever. I plan to reread this in anticipation of Dark Dawn, which is released in September, and usually when a new release comes out that I'm highly anticipating in a series, I reread each book in that series in the months up to that book's release. So all year I have been planning to read Nevernight in July. I'm really upset that I can't fit it into my official Bookopoly TBR. I am definitely going to try and squeeze this in, because as well as my own personal reread that I had planned, the Book Junkie Book Club is also reading Nevernight, God's Grave and Dark Dawn for the months of July, August and September, and I will be a guest host on the Dark Dawn live show if I'm still alive by then, which I don't think I'm going to be, because I know that Dark Dawn is going to be pretty devastating. But if you do not know what Nevernight is the story of a young assassin called Mia Corvair, who has joined this exclusive assassin school because her father was murdered and her mother was taken away from her. She ran away from the people who did this and was taken in by an old man, who then suggested that she joins this assassin school to be able to take her revenge one day. So the first book does take place over the course of her being in this school. It's like a really cutthroat environment with a set of tests and competitions, and I just absolutely love it. This is one of my favorite series ever, or it will be when it's finished, hopefully. Hopefully Jay won't break me too much, and I'm really excited to jump back into this world and reread it for the first time. So I don't usually do this, but this plus Stardust and plus 2 other books that I didn't manage to get on here that are in my Mage TBR for the Book Junkie Trials. This is my July TBR. This is only part of my July TBR. And I know that I have had an extremely successful reading month in June, but this is still ridiculous. And I have to read every single one of these books apart from Nevernight. Otherwise, you guys are gonna punish me. So I know you want to punish me, but please wish me luck. So that is it for July's Bookopoly. Please let me know if you have read any of these and what you thought of these books. Please also don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.